If the book is the end-all, be-all thing, then yeah, it becomes harder to part with it as a gift.
How am I serving the purpose that I created this for if, every single time I leave the house, I don't have it with me. I don't have any copies, or I'm not like talking about it. I'm not pushing it. I'm not like talking about it in my everyday life.
If you could attach to that price, like how much is that $15 or $16 book of yours costing you if you're making people buy it all the time? How many relationships is that costing you? How much money down the line is that costing you? How many opportunities down the line is that costing you?
Can we do a story time?
Yeah.
Okay.
Story.
This is actually okay. So this was like a really kind of cool moment, and I feel like here's the thing I know about Geoff. I know Geoff is not going to want to talk about it himself because it was like a really cool.
I have no idea what he's about to say.
That was a really cool thing. So we're gonna have this discussion. So we were there's this space that's locally, it's called the Junto, right? And just random, like every once in a while, like, when we're both working on things, we'll like get together and we'll work on things at some location or whatever like that. And, it was so cool because, as we were there, there's this kid in well, he's not a kid. He's an adult, but like, really great guy. But his name is Carter. He is a really cool creative in the city. He's a poet. He's an organizer. And he also operates with Black Men Build here in the city, a really great organization to connect with as well. And randomly saw him at the Junto, and so I'm like touching bases with him, and then he has somebody who he considers his mentor, kind of communicating with him there, and like they're both at the Junto as well. So we're all kind of talking amongst each other for a little bit, and I think one of the coolest things about that space is that we've been to the Junto. Actually, we've been to the Junto a lot of times, probably like over like the last like year and a half. You know what I mean? I can't remember when I started really kind of going to Junto, but like the Junto's been here for a while, and like it's a space that's free to kind of work in that lobby area. And yeah, just as many times that we've been there, as many times we worked there, I don't think that I really had really deep, meaningful conversations with the staff. You know what I mean? And the thing is, like, that lobby is really beautiful, and it's like surrounded by books. Like there's like bookshelves like everywhere. And it was just cool because, again, I'm talking to Carter, and then Carter's mentor, and then Carter's mentor, Carter, and Geoff, and then we're all kind of having this conversation. And then Geoff was able to talk about naturally the book, which I think I'm like, like everything that they were talking about being creatives, about trying to build something up. I'm like, bam, like this book is like, it's in your wheelhouse. It's like, it's what you want to be referencing. Or at the very least, you want this to be part of your collection. And then Carter's mentor, he goes and he's like talking to like the Drew, right? Drew. Mm-hmm. Drew is at the front desk. Shout out to Drew if you're watching this. Yeah. But he's like talking to Drew for a second, and then they essentially kind of make the way around to like Drew's like, oh yeah, you have a book. Love to get your book in here. And it was like, it was so much easier than you might think, because you maybe like your first thought is like, in order to have a book in here, it has to have, this kind of track record, or you have to go through a ton of different channels and stuff like that. And a lot of times it's just about asking. It's about asking the question. So yeah, I thought that was a really cool moment. I know we got other stuff to talk about, for today, but I feel like I really want maybe Geoff, because I feel like that's a really good perspective thing from Geoff's point of view, because he has multiple books. And so like from your point of view, as far as like that process, does that feel like a common process for you as far as like, getting your book placement in places? And I guess like, did you take anything away from that experience?
Good questions. Okay, so some things to think about for Dead Space. So the Junto, again, does have this lobby area where people can work, in theory, for free. I mean, there's a cafe where you can order stuff if you want. And there's also like a bar and restaurant, but essentially it's the lobby of a boutique hotel. And that's something that a lot of boutique hotels have been moving towards, like having these lobbies where people can work. I think another example would be there's like the Graduate. I think also has like a lobby area where people can work too, in the short north in Columbus. But so this is not a place that's in the business of books. They have books. The books are the core. And when people are passing through, they're not necessarily passing through to be like, I'm going to pick up a book. You know, it's more one of those things that, we walk by, like, that looks interesting. Let me take a look, flip through a couple pages, put it back, and go about my day. Because most people there are, they're temporary because they're visitors, because it's a hotel. So I think in an establishment like that, I think it's pretty typical. Like, it doesn't surprise me that you could be like, hey, I have this book. Now, I think how you enter the conversation is important. Because I think if you just run up like, hey, can I put this book on your shelf? Probably not going to go well. You want to establish a relationship. But probably the easiest example I can think of, I haven't done that sort of marketing with the Meditations for an Independent Poet book, but I have done similar marketing to that with the Become a Poet in 30 Days book. So that is, we have a couple advanced copies.
Heck yeah.
So that's this book, which is basically like a writing workbook, and the goal is to distribute these for free around the city to get people thinking about writing. Inside of it, like every day has like a writing exercise, and then on the first page, just like some contact information for the verses in case people want to go deeper on poetry. For this book, I've been pretty much just like going to, especially like coffee shops, and being like, hey, can I leave free copies for people to take? And so that process feels very similar to what I've been doing with this book. Not as much with the Meditations book, but with this book. But even with the Meditations book, like the thing I'm really trying to go for is we're trying to like draw the intention and interest of people who may or may not be expecting to engage with the work on their own because they have other agendas. As in, like, I'm going to a coffee shop to get coffee. I'm not going to a coffee shop to get this, Or if I'm in the hotel because I'm staying here tonight, I'm not going here to read a book. So trying to appeal to people's interests, like for instance, design discover, like going for like really minimalist and seeing the direction, and also trying to connect with people's desired state, even to a small degree, because like not everyone's being like, I want to be a poet, but they may be wanting to view themselves like, oh, I'm someone who's artistic. Yeah. I'm someone who creates, or I want to be someone who creates. So that's what this book is trying to appeal to with the cover, and that's why I didn't want to add anything to the cover. I just wanted the text, that way you see it and you immediately know what the message is. And with like the Meditations book, like trying to keep it kind of like minimalist, sophisticated, classy, hardcover, minimalist designs, column on the cover. So that way you see it and you're like, I'm someone who identifies as being sophisticated or artsy or interested in thinking. Now whether these people actually are or not, that's up to them to know. But that's something I'm trying to appeal to their desired state, right? Yeah. And so I did try to design these books so that if we market like this in a hotel, or in a situation like this that we're not necessarily prepared for, that it could still function well. Okay. That was a very long answer. I'm sorry.
That was good. No, because I think as it was happening, one of the things that I was just like, oh man, this would be a really good story for the pod. But for a couple of different reasons. I think that when it comes to getting your book into people's hands and like making sure that like you're prepared to be able to like pitch your book, because it's like, you worked really hard on it. Not only did you work really hard on it, but like the purpose behind it is deep and meaningful, and you're like, how am I serving the purpose that I created this for if every single time I leave the house I don't have it with me. I don't have any copies, or I'm not like talking about it, I'm not pushing it, I'm not like talking about it in my everyday life. You're only really communicating the message of your book in the super intentional, hey, I am at a show or I'm at a bookshop. And so just this thought that you're a communicator for your literature that you're creating at all times.
This is a business card.
Yeah.
This is a business card. It's not a book. I mean, yes, it is a book, but it's a business, and also carrying copies. Like, if I didn't have a copy, with me, I wouldn't have been able to give the copy to Kwan. I still have to run a copy to Dejunto, but they're expecting it, Yeah. So it's like having copies of the work to distribute and distribute freely. And I think that might be something that a lot of authors might be like, wait, you just gave the book away for free. Mm-hmm. Well, people can't, it's not a free book. You can order the book online. Like, if you need a copy, that's how, a lot of the orders will come in online. However, in the right interaction, I'm happy to give it to you for free. It's a gift, right? Yeah. I think sometimes we can get, if the book is the end all be all thing, then it becomes harder to part with it as a gift. But if the book is more like step one of many other steps, so then you want to get the book out. You want to give the book out to as many people as possible.
Yeah, even at like viewing it as a tool instead of a product, I think really kind of brings some things into context, because now I'm like, well, it is important for me to it's important for everybody to like make money some kind of way, right? Like, I'm not foreign to this concept, but the thought that, okay, like the thing that I'm looking for in this interaction is $15, $16, when maybe like the thing that I'm getting out of this interaction, the thing that you're getting out of this interaction is like, is you get to understand me, you get to understand my mission, and now that you understand me and my mission, now you can do a deep dive into both with this book. And that person, I think that like after some kind of like meaningful conversation, and it's like a meaningful like encounter, I think after that there's somebody who's also like kind of looking for you now. Like, they're like, oh man, like what is the next thing? Like, how do I get on board with the mission? Because again, even the thought of everybody having the book, if everybody got the book and was motivated from it and they are now pushing the mission, I'm like, okay, however that happens, whether it's through Amazon or like the website, or if it's from this direct encounter like with the author, I think these are all important.
Yeah. I mean, if you could attach to that price, like how much is that $15, $16 book of yours costing you if you're making people buy it all the time? How many relationships is that costing you? How much money down the line is that costing you? How many opportunities down the line is that costing you, just because you're not going to budge on the price? But I think also, keeping in mind the intention behind it. Like, for instance, again, like I said, like designing the cover. Imagine like if this were like, I made this out of like, I just printed it at like a FedEx Kinko's on my own and stuff like that, and hand wrote it. It'd be a lot harder to give this to Dejunto to be like, hey, can you display this on your shelf? Yeah. Right? Because that has to match also the vibe of the place. Like, your book has to elevate the person who takes it in the way that they want.
For sure.
I think, and just last night, I had to get more copies. I don't have any more copies because I'm out, because all the places I've left books at, people are taking them. So now I have to get more. And you might be like, well, Geoff, doesn't that cost money? Yeah, it does cost me money, but it's a business expense. And it's like, let's imagine I have $100, and $100 I could buy, 30, 40 more copies of this, or I could buy an ad online to random people that, that I can kind of select, depending on the platform I use. But I'd rather spend the $100 making these and giving them to people than $100 on an ads.
Yeah,
personally,
and the thing is, like, either one of those might be, could be beneficial in their own ways. But I also think about, like, the person that has your book in their hand and gets something meaningful and impactful from the book is now a far more reliable billboard, like, in a way, for your messaging and for what you're doing than just like that physical billboard will be, or that physical ad will be. And that person is also, we talk about it in like when you're directing like actors, like, speaking like everything with feeling. You know what I mean? So it's like an ad, you can kind of put an ad out there, and you know, because it's this on your screen and maybe on your probably on your phone, like when you're like looking at it, it's like, you know, you're seeing the messaging but you're not getting the feeling. But somebody that's really impacted by the messaging in the book, like they're going to be able to communicate that far better than an ad is going to be able to.
The other thing too is that an ad is not controlled. I'm not controlled if I see the ads that I'm shown.
Yeah.
You know, you can argue about like personalization with like cookies and things like that, but the reality is that like I'm not choosing this. This book, the people who take this are people who physically chose to. They didn't have to. They saw it and they took it by choice. So already they're self-selecting. An ad you can't really self-select on. So that's already a more meaningful touch point.